What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy, Devin. And just like always, we're here to help you on your personal development journey, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's with your relationships, whether it's in, with your family, any area of your life you're looking to get better, we're here to help. And today I got a special guest for you guys, Phil Bohol. He is a Marine vet as well as a serial entrepreneur with the Underdog Uprising, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, and his story and his motivation, from his social media to his YouTube and his podcast, the Phil Bohol Show, it's something that I think a lot of you guys will resonate with. So I wanted to bring him on. And Phil, thank you so much for taking the time out, especially the day after Christmas. I know this episode won't go live till January, but thank you for taking the time to hop on and share some knowledge.
Yeah, bro. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share whatever value I can with your audience because there's a lot that helped me throughout my life and through my journey. So hopefully everybody takes a lot from this.
No, I already know that people are going to take a lot from it. I mean, let's dive into it. I mean, I know your upcoming, wasn't the easiest. You're an immigrant from the Philippines, right?
Yep. Yep.
How was that journey? Like, let's start there. How was that, coming to the U.S. and
Yeah, bro. So the whole journey, I mean, when you're living it, it doesn't really feel like anything weird. Nothing's off. But reflecting back onto it, I felt like an outsider basically from the moment I landed here, about 5, 6 years old, and there was always something a little bit off. I was like that happy-go-lucky kid, just kind of naive to life, things like that. But I never really fit in. And so one of the biggest things, so my first seven-figure business was actually confidence coaching. Through my entire life, I struggled with confidence and I didn't really understand why. I wasn't like a terrible, bad looking kid. I was a nice kid. People can come up to me and things like that. But I always felt like an outcast. And it's because when I actually first came here, I had this like massive, I didn't speak proper English. I had this, you can tell I came from the Philippines. I mean, it took a lot of me just talking and talking and talking to eventually, sound really good in English. But I had a lot of confidence issues growing up. My dad did the best that he could. We actually did pretty good from the Philippines to here. He had an art background, so, we were making about 75K, 80K, I wanna say. And so we had that, like, $200,000 home, but we had each other. We had a lot of, love in the family, and that only lasted till about 10, then shit kind of hit the fan, for us, and then we kinda lost everything. So that's where my whole journey of darkness kind of came about.
so I mean, knowing the culture, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are like Filipino, and it's very similar to like our culture and like the Cuban culture and Hispanic
Mhm.
culture. It's very
Yeah.
family orientated. And how was that when you said you hit 10? With that shift of what happened?
Yeah, so basically, my mom told us on Christmas Eve, actually. So just 2 days ago, many years back, dad was cheating on mom, and that we were probably going to go through a separation and divorce. So on top of all the confidence bullshit that I was going through in my life, now we went through like imposter syndrome. Because for me, I had a lot of pride in like family, blood. Like nothing's thicker than us. And then you go from that to okay, the thing that you loved most, the thing that you held dear is a lie. It's been a lie this entire time. And that morning, actually, Christmas Eve going into Christmas, my dad usually goes to the Philippines between Christmas and New Year's. I had this whole thing that I wrote for the school homework for the holidays, which is who's your hero. And so I had this whole thing I wanted to present to him when he got home, and that whole thing fucking shattered, bro. So the loss of self at a young age, feeling like everything was stripped from me, that was the biggest battle, bro. Like, it led to, like, me wanting to take my own life multiple times. It led to me starting to drink at, like, 13, doing drugs at 14. I started doing a lot of stupid shit, basically, and there was always a part of me that was like, "You're Filipino, bro," and everybody that's around you that's Filipino, they have such a loving family. Everybody has each other's back, they're spending holidays together and all of that stuff, and again, just like being an outcast when I first came here, to America, I'm an outcast again, even in my own community, because everybody's talking about family, get-togethers, all this stuff, and I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna go get fucked up by myself, you know? And it's like a really shitty situation, bro. And we still deal with a lot of that shit to this day, and it's unfortunate. And it happens a lot. From what I found, a lot of people have a lot of family fucking drama, which is the thing I think that affects us the most in life and relationships and business, all of it. If you let it get to your head, so I've had to create quite a lot of boundaries to get to where I'm at today.
No, definitely. And a lot of people go through it, but not a lot of people speak about it, right? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, 100%, bro.
everyone has their shit, but whether they air it out or not and they hold it in is what, separates, you know, a lot of people. With that, I know you're a father. How is that impact from you being, impacted by your dad and your hero kind of transformed you as a dad?
Yeah, so it's a blessing in disguise. All of the bullshit that I've ever been through with my family, there was a long time in my life where I actually gave up on wanting to be a dad. It was actually my dream at like very early on. I was like, family's awesome. Being a dad's awesome. I want to be a dad. And everybody wanted to be like a doctor, a firefighter, all that shit. I wanted to be a dad, believe it or not. But after the whole divorce, I kind of gave up on love. I gave up on marriage. I gave up on being a dad. I gave up on all of that stuff. I gave up on life. And the blessing in disguise is a lot of the reflection I go through now, right? So I invested over $700,000 into my personal development to kind of unpack all of this bullshit and trauma and the generational curses that I could have taken to my kids. But what I made a promise to myself was when I become a parent, I'm never going to treat them or give them the same negative experiences my parents gave me. I mean, my parents did their best. I'm never going to take that away from them. However, there's a lot of bullshit that created the bullshit inside of me. And those were curses that were passed down after I found out all the stories that was passed down from their parents and their parents before them. And I chose that I would never be that same man that would do that to my kids. And I have two daughters, right? I have a 3-year old and I have a 2-month year old. 2-month old. And the hardest part is being aware of your ticks, being aware of like how you were raised and what's normal to you, and that hyper awareness actually allows me to have a really deep bond with my kids. Like my kids, my relationship with my kids is something that I wish I had for myself. So my biggest thing and the biggest gift that I could give my kids is learning all of the lessons from my parents, how they treated me, how they mistreated me, how they responded to me, how they showed me love, how they showcased it even, like even spending a day together, going to the fucking ice cream shop, doing whatever a normal parent would do with their kids. I don't know. I'm actually still learning to this day what that even looks like. And I do that by showing my daughter, like, let's go on a daddy daughter date.
Mhm.
Let me just take a day off work so that way I can spend time with you playing with your tea set and things like because fuck, I mean, I'm a dude, so I didn't really do that stuff, but I don't know what's normal, what's not. I only saw what I saw in the movies. I only saw what I saw on TV shows. So now it's like everything that I do with my kids, I always ask myself, is this what I would have wanted? And by doing that and giving that, man, I love my bond with my kids. I mean, I literally have my kids all around my office. Like there's pictures of us all together all the time because that's my dream. My dream is to have a beautiful house with a beautiful marriage with a beautiful relationship with my kids. And that's why I hustle so damn hard.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I have a daughter. I have one daughter, and she's in between yours. She's about to be two, so I completely
Yeah.
understand. I grew up in a house of boys, and learning the dad role, especially girl dad role, it's a little different. You
Oh
know.
yeah, bro. They soften you. They kind of help you reconnect back with yourself, if that kind of makes sense. Like
Mhm.
emotionally, I was so off my entire life. Like I turned off all emotions, and then joining the infantry, they teach you how to not feel, how to not do things because you need to operate. And having a daughter, bro, like it's the biggest blessing because for me, I finally feel like I'm living again. You know, Obviously, my wife helped me a lot with that. She broke down all my walls, all of that good stuff, and then being able to have that connection with my daughter or my daughters, it makes you be a better man. It makes you want to like get through all of your shit so that way they know what it should be like to receive love from a man, from anybody, from a partner in the future. And so dude, it's just a blessing, because I have gotten really really soft, but as soon as I'm away from them, back to hustling and grinding. So
So in that, have you heard that saying? You'll never know, or they'll never know how much violence or pain you had to go through to be able to be that soft, or
I've never
perceive
heard
that
that, bro,
soft.
but I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how I kind of see it as well. Like you open up, like you're saying, around your daughters, and you show them that soft side of you, but at the same time, they know there's is that switch, and no
Mhm.
one messes with them because of dad kind of deal, right?
Yeah, there's that calm chaos, bro. There's got to be. If you have that, you never really have to say anything. There's also a balance because when you're like us and you're protectors and you want to give the best to them, sometimes you can give them too much. And when I say too much, I'm like, yes to everything. And you kind of got to
Mhm.
watch the balance because you also want to teach them how to like earn whatever they need to earn, that they're not just going to get everything just because they asked dad. And so it is that balance for me too. You know, once you start becoming like more and more successful with your businesses, as you know, fucking then every time they ask for something, it's like, yes, you can have that. Of course you can. And then it's balancing like, oh, wait, no, no, no. You can't have all the candy in the world just because you asked for it, because then we're going to teach them bad habits. So again, it's that balance. It's like being a parent and being a girl dad is like the best personal development fucking program we're ever gonna opt into. So I love, bro.
No, definitely. So going back and let's rewind a little bit to your confidence, building. What allowed you to build that self-confidence? Was it joining the Marines? Was it something beforehand?
I would say it's before that. The Marine Corps really helped me like refine it. I was basically like this jagged, rugged person, and they helped me really refine like where all this wrath came from. And the confidence came from having this like weird chip on my shoulder. So at 10 years old, it felt like life was taken from me. It felt like I had no control as a kid. Obviously, I couldn't really do much about that. But from basically 10 to 18 years old, I was always I was always waiting for my parents to tell me what I'm gonna suffer through next. Whatever decision that they made, whatever decision they didn't make, I would struggle with that. There was a short period of time in my youth where I was also homeless. I couldn't live with them. It was so toxic. I would literally shoot myself in the face if I stayed there for too long. And I didn't have anywhere to live. And I was bouncing around from home to home to home with friends and trying to just find a couch to sleep on. And the biggest thing for me is during those times I had this weird chip on my shoulder where I didn't want anybody to ever take anything from me again. I didn't want to give anybody the power to take anything from me again. So at 13 years old, I actually ended up making my first online business. And I did this through MySpace. I don't know if you remember MySpace.
Yep.
You know how you have to code like the layout in the background and shit, and then like how you can code like your top 5 people. So I Googled how to do all that stuff, right? That Google rabbit hole brought me to like how to build websites. And that website built into me building a business. And that business actually landed me my first high ticket client, which was a $5,000 deal that I sold to this dude at 13 years old. He was actually in China, which is interesting. And it was for a video game currency, bro. And I was asking him, like, why the fuck would you spend $5,000 for something like a video game? And his response to me, which like really clicks for me nowadays, which is like like money is just in exchange for true value. So for him, he was like, well, it's like a Ferrari, bro. If you have the best in the game, it's like a Ferrari. And I was like, I still don't understand. Like a Ferrari is a Ferrari. You know, a video game's a fucking video game. But to him, it was valuable. So I closed my first $5,000 deal and I bought my first BMW, 1993 BMW 325i cash. I did that so my dad could never take the keys from me. I did that so that way my mom could never take the keys from me. It was like this weird chip on my shoulder. And I never actually understood that it was confidence building at the time. I just knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want, which is to give my power away. And so I did everything in my power to make sure that nobody could ever control my life. And so I got that fucking car before I could even drive it. When it came to joining the Marine Corps, it was the same thing. It's a title. It's something that I had to earn. And I broke my body to actually become not only a Marine, but also a machine gunner. And again, it's something that nobody could ever take away from me. It's something that I've earned. So I've always had this weird chip on my shoulder ever since that fucking December 24th back in the day to give myself the permission to be whoever the fuck I needed to be. So that way nobody could take from me. And I had full command and control of my life.
So is that still how you kind of operate today? Is the things that you
Oh, hell
build
yeah,
or
bro.
the titles you build are
100%. So a lot of the things that people will never understand, I always talk about like I want to experience everybody's fucking weakness. I want everybody's weakness. I want everybody's limiting beliefs. I want everybody's limited mindset. And I say this from being the guy that had the worst mindset, that had the worst belief systems, that self-sabotage like a motherfucker. I'm saying it from that guy. I want to experience everybody's weakness to bring me back to baseline of like what's possible for people. Because this whole mission that I'm on with Underdog Uprising is to show everybody if somebody like me can come from a third world country, get to the United States, and then go through all that bullshit, including wanting to end my fucking life at the marina, to now building multiple 7-figure businesses, so can you. So everybody, please give me every excuse that you got on why you can't succeed, and I will show you the path. I will show you that every time you experience turmoil in your life, every time you experience hardship in your life, you can get through it, but you have to shift your mentality. You have to shift who you're seeing that through, because sometimes when we're going through a lot of bullshit in our lives, we go back to that 10-year-old boy. We go back to those traumas in our life. We go back to those moments where we felt weakness. And so what I do is I want to experience everybody's weakness. I tell everybody you have to embrace your weakness. But instead of sitting in that and moping around, not doing shit about it, you have to be able to take the weakness and burn it. Let it be fuel for you. Get so fucking frustrated at your situation that you actually want to move. Because if you really think about it, every time in your life you've actually made a change, it wasn't because you were sad. It wasn't because you were in apathy. It was because you were actually pissed off about a situation. You're like, I'm fucking worth more than this shit. I'm worth more than feeling like this on a daily basis. I'm worth more than waking up every single fucking day stressed out, wondering about today, wondering about the next day, wondering about the next week. When you actually get frustrated, which is why wrath is actually tattooed on my body, you learn to harness that emotion that gets you into fucking action. And that's your fuel. And so that's one of the biggest things, bro. And I fucking rambled for a second, but I love all of this negative energy, these mental states, these mental gymnastics that we put ourselves through. Because when you can realize that you have so much power inside of you, your life can completely change by just changing who the fuck you are in like real time. You can just choose right now that you're a whole different motherfucker, that you're a different operator. But a lot of the times, what happens is you see yourself as that person, and then you also say override, but you're not because you haven't been, so you can't be. And then you choose to believe that weakness versus the higher self, the version of you that's like, no, motherfucker, I am that motherfucker right fucking now. I choose to be it right now.
No, I completely agree with you. That's amazing. And I want to touch in on what you said, because you explained it, but the limiting mindset, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's an analogy that basically there are scientists, they put fleas into a container, right? And a flea can jump
Mm-hmm.
a few feet up, like, or I think it's about 5 feet, but they put fleas into a container with a lid on it. And over a few generations, the fleas could only jump as high as the lid was there, right? So when you remove the lid, the fleas never jumped out of the jar, right? They only
Mm-hmm.
thought they could jump that high, right? So that's kind of going into that limiting mindset that you mentioned. What what allowed you to realize that you had a limiting mindset? Whether it was, I know you mentioned you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on yourself. What allowed you to have that mindset shift and realize that you were putting a limiting mindset on yourself?
My actual mentality happened. The shift in my mentality changed actually back at that 13-year-old mark, bro. A lot of what I did was amplifying who I already was. It's just I was doing it so unconsciously. I didn't know what the fuck was actually going on. So I'm a big dreamer. Like I'm one of those guys that like to play fucking video games. I'm like, oh, that would be so cool if this was reality. Like, oh, that's so easy to make the currency or the points or whatever. Imagine if this was real life. So I always this big dreamer. And so my biggest thing is I always knew how I set my GPS. So what I teach my clients is you set a GPS. You know what your end state is, and then you reverse engineer every move that you need so that way you can actually get there. And so for me, I don't think that at 13 years old, I even had a limited mind, which was a blessing in disguise. Even though I was going through a lot of this hardship, in my mind, I still was like that playful kid that was like, ooh, that would be cool if. And what happens as we grow up, we start losing in life, right? We get turned down for the date. We don't get to be prom king. I don't fucking know. We don't get all the stuff that we want. And then we start limiting ourselves like, oh, I couldn't go to the basketball team. I couldn't play football. I couldn't do these things. That person turned me down. Everybody's talking shit about me. All of these things start getting stacked up on us. And so we start seeing ourselves as like everybody else's fucking opinion. So at an early age, I was able to experience a level of success where I'm like, this is what's possible. Throughout time, though, the same thing happened to me. All of my purpose and potential got buried beneath everybody's opinion that I started valuing more than myself. So that became my lid. Everybody's opinion of me, because I started valuing everybody's opinion of me more than my own opinion of myself. And so as I went through like adulthood, as I went through even the military, there were still limiting beliefs there. The 700K that I invested into myself, bro, had nothing to do with growing more. It actually had to do with destroying and eliminating who I thought I was. This false identity, this false armor that we wear as like ourselves, when it's like we didn't choose to be these people. We didn't choose to be unconfident. We didn't choose to have these negative mindsets. We didn't choose to have all this bullshit in our lives, but we chose to value Bob's opinion over there, who doesn't even fucking know us, that basically said, we look like shit, we're not shit. And in our mind, we just kept saying, okay, that must be true. If that person believes it, it must be fucking true. And we do that for so long in our lives that we forget who we actually are. So a lot of this and breaking through these ceilings has nothing to do with anything external. It's actually going back to self, going back to like, who am I? If I was in the fucking desert and I had no food and no water, would I actually like try to live? Would I try to survive or would I just like die? For me, I was like, no, I'd want to fucking live. I don't know how, but there's a part of me that's like, I'm not just gonna fucking die here, bro. I need to like walk in some direction and try to figure this shit out. Get to the top of the fucking hill and try to figure it out. And you have to start asking yourself why you would do that. And at some point, somebody will find their driving force, the reason why they want to live. And for me, it's wanting to know that one day I can pass through all of this bullshit in my life and be able to tell this story. And if I can tell this story of like how I went from this fucking guy that was stuck in this weird place in my life to where I'm at, it's going to inspire a lot of fucking people, bro, because I needed a lot of inspiration in my life. So I started asking myself, if I needed to be the person that I've always needed in my life, what would that look like? And that guy doesn't fucking give up. That guy doesn't have a ceiling. But when you become aware that you do have like emotional ceilings, I think that's what it is. I think that we fear a lot of things. We feel like turmoil more, then we can start doing personal development work to break all of those ceilings and really get back to baseline of who the fuck we are, if that makes sense.
No, it does. That's amazing. I agree with you 100% on that. That's awesome. And I think a cool analogy that you tell your clients is the GPS thing. It's similar to what I tell, some of my clients with, you look at what's your dream house, right? And you kind of reconstruct it from there. What are you going to put into the sinks? What kind of doors are you going to put on? And you break it all the way down to the blueprint. But I like your analogy with the GPS because it's so much more true to life than a blueprint like that, because you put in your end destination, you can retrack it. But what happens when you're in the car with your GPS? Half the time, it always says recalculating faster route, recalculating,
Mhm.
go here. So knowing that your goals and where you need to be isn't always a straight and solid path. There's gonna be an adaptation period or phases throughout that, and knowing that and realizing it's okay, right? You have to be
Yeah.
adaptive. How is
Yeah,
your
and you
role
can
in?
choose to take a different, like, vehicle, right? So we can walk, we can take the bike, we can take a
Mhm.
plane, we can take the train. It depends on what season you're at and how fast you wanna get there and what you're willing to go through to get there a little bit faster because a flight is a little bit more expensive than traveling on foot. But traveling on foot also takes a hell of a lot more time. So 100%, bro. That's why as a GPS, you set the target, but it's not like when we're driving, we're looking at the end destination, the end address the entire time. We're like, "Okay, in 800 feet, we're taking a fucking left." And if
Right.
you can focus on just the next step, we're always every single day going to get closer to our end goal. And I think a lot of people get stuck with like, what is that end state? And they focus so much on it, they miss all the fucking turns to get there. And I'm like, well, fuck, pay the fuck attention like you would driving. You're going to take the next left, bro. Take the next left.
Have you knowing? I'm gonna ask this question because you are a girl dad also, right?
Yeah.
Has your older daughter? She's watched Frozen. I'm assuming, right, from Disney,
Uh huh. Yeah.
right? There was one line in it that it hit, and I was like, damn, like that is the line. When you can't see the path in front of you, just take the next right step, right? It's
Hmm.
just like you're saying, you're not looking at the end destination the whole time. You're 800 feet, you're making a right, 800 feet, making a left. You just focus on the task at hand. Is there been a point in your journey where you had to, take a step back and be like, damn, like I'm getting overwhelmed myself. I just need to focus on the next step, because I know as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have these, because I'm a dreamer too, like we have these big goals, and sometimes you get in your own head and you're like, hold on, let me recalibrate. What's the next step? Has that kind of been a play
Yeah,
for
bro.
you?
100%. But in different ways, because I
Mhm.
think that a lot of people get into doubt faster than they execute for long enough to get the data that they need, right? So for me, if I say I'm going to make a move, I stick to it for long enough to get the data to say that it actually failed. Most people like they try for like a day, they try for like a week, they'll even try for a fucking month, and then they'll retract and then try a different thing. And that's why most entrepreneurs we have squirrel brain, right? Because it's like,
Mhm.
ooh, shiny object, shiny object, shiny object, but they never commit to anything long enough to fail to know that that's not the path for them. Like one of these fucking things is like a 50K per month e-commerce business. I failed for like a year and a half, 2 years to try to figure out e-commerce until I actually started breaking 50K per month. The moment I started making 50K per month with it, I was like, it's not for me. I actually really hate this because it's all customer service, it's all product, it's all this bullshit. I don't get to talk to anybody. I feel like a loner at home, bro. Like I didn't like it. And so for me, I had to fail for so long to realize that even once I achieved a level of success where I could have scaled that thing, I didn't want it anymore. But imagine if I only spent like a week or a month. What happens most of the time, people get into their head and they try to like take a step back and say, "Ooh, this wasn't for me." But it's like, motherfucker, you didn't spend long enough to know that though. And the same thing applies to like high ticket coaching. People think that it doesn't work for a week, it doesn't work for a month, but it's like, no, bro, you haven't spent enough time. It took me 18 months to get my first seven-figure business, bro. And I had to fail. I think I spent like 6 to 8 months with zero clients to land my first client. And I think a lot of people take that back step way too early because in the military, you're also taught to reflect. Reflection is like a huge thing. So that way you learn all of your failures, you learn all the things that you did good, but it's very important. But you have to have enough data, bro. You have to have enough data. And I think people are too afraid to go fail. They're too afraid to redline sometimes. And I'm telling you, bro, like not only did I invest quite a lot into myself going into entrepreneurship after e-commerce and after all the bullshit that I went through in my life, I also had $100,000 in debt coming into like 2019. And so like $100,000 in debt is something that would like eat people alive. And I carried that for that time because I was like, no, I can't be wasting time carrying debt or like worrying about debt that I'm never going to eliminate unless it takes me a fucking decade. I need to learn how to make more money. And so, again, same thing. I held on to something very uncomfortable for a long period of time before I actually figured out the path forward. And so, I think a lot of people lack that mental game, that mental fortitude, that personal development to sustain long enough to get the data that they need to actually become successful.
No, definitely. And I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be fucking doing it, right? So
Oh, yeah,
it's
bro, and there's something I don't know what the fuck happened in, like, 2020 or whenever this global shutdown happened, but, like, the sense of entitlement in the world right now, it's
oh
kind
yeah.
of crazy, you know, like, online space, "Oh, you make a lot of money online," and they're like, "Oh, I should be a millionaire tomorrow." But it's like, "No, bro, like, you have to fail." Like, if you've never done sales before, sales online is also gonna be hard. If you've never done marketing before, marketing is gonna be hard because it's a different psychology. Operations, leadership, fulfillment, coaching, mentorship, so many different skill sets involved with that. Why do you think that like taking one course or program is going to change your entire fucking life? It's going to point you in the right direction, but you're not entitled to success when like people like us are constantly working on a daily basis to be the best in the game. So I don't know, bro. I can talk about fucking this entitlement bullshit all day, but anyway.
No, I agree. I agree with you honestly, and believe me, that whole 2020, shift, it put a lot of people down. I know you were in the corporate space for a little bit and switched out of it, and even for myself, it's one of those things. Both of us had a shift during that time. I mean, I launched my gym at that time. I just launched my franchise this year, so we have a franchise system, and it's one of those things where, just like you said, I know I'm not the best in the game. I know I don't know everything with the franchising, but again, I'm collecting data right now, just like you're saying. So I agree and am in line with everything you're saying, and it makes 100% sense. How
Yeah,
has
bro.
personal
100%.
development continued to shape who you are and continue to shape? I know you mentor people. Do you have mentors? Are you part of any
Oh yeah,
masterminds
bro.
or anything like that?
Hell yeah, yeah, 100%. I have a mindset coach. I have a mastermind coach. I have people that are doing, 8 and 9 figures in their businesses. I always invest into mentors that are like 100 steps ahead of me,
Yep.
because biggest thing, my whole philosophy as a coach, as a mentor, is you have to practice what you preach. I would kind of be a shitbag if I was like a coach that didn't actually ever hire coaches, because then what am I just taking everybody's credit? No, the reality is like just like in the military. I had so many different seniors in my life that taught me a different thing, right? So I had one senior in the military that taught me how to be a hard ass. Like, just don't give a fuck. Like, you're going to get a boot to the fucking face, get the job done. I had another senior that was like more like, hey, I'm going to teach you from the Machine Gun Bible. I'm going to teach you. Come on over. I'm never going to yell at you, though. I had that guy. And we had somebody that was like really funny all the time to boost morale. So I take pieces of my seniors, and that's what built me as a human, as a person. The same thing happened in mentorship. I have people doing crazy amounts of they're doing millions of dollars per month. There's some that are doing crazy amounts of money in real estate, plus coaching, plus different industries. So I always surround myself with like hard chargers. I even have a mentor right now that makes 40 million a year in investments. And he's teaching me a different money game because this dude makes like 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 in 30 minutes, bro. And I watch him live do it. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But I always invest into people who know far more than me because their mindset, their mentality, how they think, how they formulate decisions are so different. And that's how they got to where they're at. And I would be dumb if I said, "No, Phil, you've gone from the Philippines to here. You know everything, bro. Just keep at it." No, I want to continue investing into myself, just like I tell my clients to, because I genuinely believe in we can collapse time. If we find the right mentors, the right guides, the right people who generally give a fuck about us, we can collapse the 10 years it would take, collapse that into 1 year. But you got to be resourceful, bro, because when I first started making investments into myself, $297 was a lot for me, bro. I had to like get resourceful for 297 bucks. And then that 297 turned into a $6,000 investment. 6,000 turned into 10,000, then 25,000. Then I started making $50,000 investments, $100,000 investments, bro. And if you can't handle a 297 investment, you can't handle a $100,000 investment. But if you can't handle earning $297 or 1,000 or 5,000, you can't handle the weight of making 10,000, 20, 50, $100,000 in a month, bro. And so when I surround myself with people making millions a month, I'm like, oh shit, there's obviously million a month problems too, which is where personal development comes in because the stress load of that, bro, like it's out there.
No, definitely. And I think a big part of it too is like you said, you came from the Philippines and you could have had this mindset of like, look, I made it this far on my own, I could figure it out. But you had enough humility and realization that you don't know everything and you can collapse time. That's with my advisors and my mentors. I'm the same way. I'm the kind of person that I value time, right? And when I say that, people immediately like, oh, you want time freedom? No, 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 bitch. Like, listen, I value the time you spent to get where you are. So that 10 years, like you're saying, I value that 10 years you spent. I don't want to spend 10 years doing it. I want to do it
Mhm.
in a year or 2 years. I like to value that time collapse. So
Yeah.
I'm 100% agreement. And again, you have to walk the walk to be able to talk the talk nowadays, especially like you're saying with, all these, the online, mentors and stuff like that. Like you look for someone like yourself that is, actually done it, that talks the talk and walks the walk. Because if you don't have an e-commerce business or you've never had an e-commerce business, why am I going to hire you to teach me how to do e-commerce?
Yeah, 100%. So, oh, bro, there's so many people in the online space right now. They're just coming up with offers out of their ass. They'll read a book and they'll regurgitate information, and be like, "I'm the expert, I'm the guru." When Chat GPT came about, everybody became this AI expert, and so you can tell, like, whoever became an AI expert, like 3 days after Chat GPT kind of rolled out, you're like, "You're that motherfucker, bro." Because
Yep.
the thing is, not only do you have to have the skill set and been battle tested in the skill set, you also have to like invest into yourself. You can't ask people for thousands of dollars and you've never invested thousands of dollars. So I teach sales in some of my programs, and it's closing with congruency. You're never going to have the confidence or the conviction that I have, having invested quite a lot into myself, to be like, yeah, 12 G's, yeah, 20 G's, 50 G's, 100 G's, because you've never done it. So not only do you have to have the skill set to back up that you can walk the walk and talk the talk, but you also have to do that with investing into yourself, bro, because there's so many people right now that are trying to get online that are like, I'm going to Google my way to be a 7-figure business. And it's like, no, bro, like you're asking people to do the very thing you won't do. You're never going to be able to handle, all the reasons why they say they can't do it right now. It's not congruent.
No, definitely. And I think one of the other things you said that I definitely want to touch on is, what do you mean? And I know the answer to this, but I think someone needs to hear this for sure. When you said that people that make, a million in a month, right? And then there's million in a month problems. Like
Mhm.
dive into that, right? Like, people like to go up levels thinking that it's going to be this, easy, lucky stage once they hit that. And they don't realize that, there is different problems at different levels.
Oh, bro. So yeah, it's gonna be both on business and personal side. Because most people think you're just gonna have business problems. No, bro. Like your personal problems are gonna fucking skyrocket too. So even where I'm at, right, 100,000 a month. The personal problems I have to deal with is my own personal friends, my own acquaintances, people wanting more from me just because they see the level up. And holy fuck, bro, these are people that I've never heard from on the come up. These are people that never checked in with me, people that never saw how I was doing, wanted to see like, hey, how's your business coming along? No, I haven't heard from you for fucking years. Now they see the Lambo, now they see the success, and they're like, hey, are you gonna take me on a ride in the Lambo? And I'm like, where the fuck were you? You're just randomly texting me out of the blue. So even at this level, bro, the personal problems are going crazy. Business problems, though, they're more sustainable, at least at my level, I would say, because here it's just leadership. It's your ability to manipulate so many different moving parts. Because as you continue to grow and scale and expand your brand, there's so many things that are requiring your attention. There's so much like today, right? I have to run Facebook, I have to run Instagram, I have to run YouTube, I have to do my podcast. I have all of these things and this podcast. I have so many things I have to do in one single day, where before at like 10K per month, 20K per month or whatever, I only need to do one thing. I need to produce one piece of content, do DMs, do sales calls at that time because I don't do sales calls anymore. And that was it. And even that was overwhelming at this level. So at 100K per month, there's so many different moving parts, and you have to make sure everything's a well oiled machine. So at a million a month, now you have massive scale. Now you're not just talking about like 100, 200 clients, you're talking about thousands of clients. You have to talk about like the predictability of everybody's experience, making sure that everybody maximizes on their time inside of your program. Now you have customer support tickets going crazy. You have people that have tech issues going crazy. So your team has to also be trained to know how to handle all of these unique situations as they fire up. I had one of my mentors that makes that 2 to 3 million a month. He's like, bro, like at my level and my guys making 10 million, 15 million a month, they're getting sued like fucking crazy. And not because they're doing anything bad or doing anything weird, but because people are fucking psychotic, bro. Like when you have money, now people are coming after your money because they want the quick fix. They want the easy money. They just want to complain about something that doesn't actually exist. So that way they can just capture some of your money, if that kind of makes sense. And it's kind of fucked up because they're like, bro, if you're growing at that level, you better expect that like getting sued or people trying to come after your money for any fucking bullshit, it's going to be normal. And again, at 10K, 20K per month, you don't really got to deal with that shit. So it's like everybody wants to make a million a month, but you're not ready for the million a month problems. And if you can't handle this shit over here, you're fucked.
And I think that what people have to realize too is those level ups from 10K a month to a million a month and everything in between, you're also developing the skills and the abilities to be able to handle the million a month problems, right? Because if you were just to put someone from the 10K a month right into that 100 or that $1 million a month, like you wouldn't know what to do with it. So you're building yourself and your mentality, you're building your skill set to be able to actually do all those things as well.
Yeah, bro, because you'd break. Like, so it's just like the lottery, right? Like most people that like what become multimillionaires from the lottery, they become worse off than when they started because they bring all of those shitty habits that they had over here at the lower level. Now you have money, and money's an amplifier of who you already are. So if you're a shitbag over here, you're a bigger shitbag over here. If you're good here, you're personally developed, you're putting money in the right places, you're investing into the right things and the right people, then here that's only going to amplify. You're going to do good with the money. But most people are not personally developed enough to know and how to handle that. They're going to start throwing money away, make bad investments, make bad decisions. They're going to get complacent and shit like that. And it's kind of like being at the gym, bro. If you've never been to the gym before and you're like, hey, I'm going to throw like, 225 on my back to squat, and you can't even squat the bar yet, you're going to fuck up your back, bro. You're going to fuck up your entire body. It's the same thing in business. You think you can carry the weight. You think it looks cool when people are like recording themselves carrying all this weight, but you stack on more plates, you're fucked.
No, definitely. So, what I like to ask people, before we wrap up is besides the massive amount of knowledge that you've already dropped, right? What is that one liner or that one piece of advice that, you would like to leave with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's really simple. Just stop overthinking shit and get shit done. You got like your family, you got yourself to prove something to. You got so much going for you, but you just keep looking back at the fucking past of all your failures. Stop worrying about that shit. Who you were in the past doesn't fucking matter anymore. It's the worst fucking mental bullshit you're gonna put yourself through. That's gonna keep you caught for years. You're gonna get stuck there for years. Just decide right now. I always tell my clients, decide, commit, and make absolutely no excuses as to why you will not succeed. If you just decide right now that you are that motherfucker, if you can just decide right now that you're going to forgive the past, give yourself some grace for fucking up, and that you choose right now today to be a different fucking human, a different business owner, a different father, a different human, like fucking, then you commit to it. When things get hard, when you stop wanting to go to the gym because you're fucking sore, when you're feeling hungry because you're cutting down, you got to commit to it. And every time you're like, I'm going to eat that fucking donut, I'm not going to put in the work today, I'm not going to go to the gym today, that's the time where you make no excuses. If you just follow those 3 steps in every area of your life, you're going to level the fuck up. But most people can't even fucking decide. And that's why they lose at this game. And that's why motherfuckers like us are always going to win. Because all we're going to do is listen to all the weakness of the world and say, and that's why you're losing. And we're going to keep fucking executing. So stop the bullshit and just execute.
That's awesome. And where can people, find you? Your socials and then your Underdog Uprising.
Yeah, so if you go to my Instagram, at Phil Bohol, first name, last name, or you can look me up on YouTube. I have the Phil Bohol show on there as well. You can also go to philbohol.com. Read up about like what we do in our mission over there. Our biggest thing is whether you work with us or work with Devin or work with anybody else, it's just invest into yourself. Realize that you should appreciate your time more. That time is something that we're never going to get back. So if I can invest into coaches, into mentors, people that actually genuinely give a fuck about you, and get the fucking job done. Get the shit done.
That's awesome. Hey guys, if you got anything from the show, which if you say you didn't, I know you're lying. Please send this to a friend. Please leave a review, give that 5 stars, and honestly, thank you so much, Phil, for coming on today and dropping so much knowledge.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.